Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction. Oh god, I'm gonna be sick. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be checking out a movie from... I generally technically don't even know when this is meant to be from. I think it's like... here, I'll do a quick check. This is not good news already. This is already going downhill very, very fast. Let's see. Movie from 1999, and that movie is American History X. You're not going to believe actually how I came into possession of this movie. I was in the dollar store, well, it's basically called Poundland here in the UK, and I just saw this out of a rack of like other DVDs, and I thought to myself, yeah, this will be a great idea to have to play on Easter Sunday. So here we are. It's starring two guys, both named Edward, one Norton, one Furlong, and without knowing too much about the movie, I think it's about time we just got started. Apart from the fact that I think Edward Norton is supposed to play like a white supremacist neo-Nazi in this film, I generally don't know what else to expect from this, apart from we're going to find out in a very short while. So it's time to kick back, relax, and check out American History X. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was American History X. Let me just shut that off. That was every bit as depressing and as bleak as it could possibly have been. So let's just break the ice and just get straight down to exactly what the story is about. The story is about Edward Furlong, who plays this kid called this 17-year-old kid named Danny. His older brother, Derek, played by Edward Norton, is a white supremacist Nazi, neo-Nazi, who's sent to prison, and he's come out and he's reformed, and he doesn't hate every other minority that he could think of. Basically the story it goes into like flashbacks into Derek's history of how it came to, because they reveal quite late on in the film about how Derek's prejudice began, because it's revealed very early on, but also quite late in the film as well, that Derek's father, who was a fireman, was believed to have been, I think they said he was shot by two black guys. And Derek just goes on this tangent about saying that, you know, minorities are coming into this country illegally, starting to feed and fester off parasites of America, and white Europeans came into this country and they prospered within a generation. It becomes incredibly clear that it's a story of redemption. Unfortunately, and it's all well and good to say it's a story of redemption about someone reforming from fascism. However, what you find out quite both early on in the movie and also very near the end is that it's a past that is virtually inescapable. You see, Derek, as well as his brother Danny, are part of this neo-Nazi organization run by a man called Cameron Alexander. And at first I thought he was played by Elliot Gould, because they do technically. It took me a bit surprising that Elliot Gould was technically in this movie, which he plays like this minor cop character, but it's still pretty cool. And when Edward Norton's character Derek just basically says, you know what, I'm done. This is all bullshit. This is an organization of just people who are pissed off with others. There's no feeling of fascism here. You just beating the shit out of black and Asian people for absolutely no reason other than the fact that they exist. Every other race possible, and the amount of swastikas, the amount of pictures you see of Hitler, all of this Nazi memorabilia, it's all over this movie. Edward Norton even has, a swastika tattoo on his breast. A lot of the characters in this have very short hairstyles. In fact, one of the things you hear is that people commenting on Derek's hair when he gets out that it's far too long. And it's only like about this high off its body, but it said it's got to be much, much lower. Especially when they come into view of this fucking pig of a character called Seth, who's just monstrously fat, is racist, misogynistic, has all sorts of tattoos on his knuckles, all over his fists, starts singing songs about white power, and does the whole Nazi salute and everything. And it's like, it's basically being like part of the mafia. In fact, there are many scenes where you see the entire gang of neo-Nazis gather, Danny being one of them, and Danny is just a 17-year-old kid. It must give you an idea of, well, if there are real Nazi groups like that marching about with them at that age, could you imagine what it was like during the 1930s, during the rise of Hitler as the Chancellor? It would have been taught in schools, obviously. I mean, I learned about fascism when I was about, 9 years ago, and how they worked their way into the school systems, and everybody was saluting, giving praise to Herr Hitler. They did just about everything horrible you could imagine. But the problem is that I feel like, well, first off, I just kind of want to say, I believe like they said that the director for photography of this, I think it was Michael. Let me just see, the writing's so small on here. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know whether or not this was Tony Kaye's idea or Michael McKenna, because there are a lot of scenes in Derek's backstory where they shoot it specifically in black and white. And I think the only reason they do that is because they're shooting things in the past, i.e. this was concrete, and everything becomes very black and white, from Derek befriending this black roommate who, well, basically they work together in the prison doing laundry. This black guy just basically says, I got 6 years for doing something that any other white person would probably have gone like 2 years or maybe 3 years probation at the very most. And they display, obviously, the prejudice is already apparent and all over this movie, from the way you see every single white character, with the exception of, there are plenty of exceptions to, white characters who do not go around with the most vicious of colour prejudice and violence. But then you can also see from the other perspective of how black people will literally get time for anything and everything, and they'll almost make it a life sentence. At the very beginning of the movie, you see Derek murdering 2 black people and only getting 3 years for it. And all of a sudden, well, basically because Danny has been around Derek's shenanigans for so long, that he starts, having his hair shaved so short that he's also labelled as a skinhead, has all sorts of Nazi memorabilia just all over his room, and starts running in with these neo-Nazis. But then again, when you see Danny actually interact with a lot of these neo-Nazis, you begin to sort of like realise that, what is he actually doing? Does he really know what he's getting himself into? Because they show more backstory. They do a lot of this in the movie, of Derek running around with gangs, running into grocery stores, literally laying waste to anything and everything they can see that is not white. In fact, one of the most interesting, well, certainly visually, is when all these neo-Nazis are gathered and they have people dressing up like SS officers, people marching like the Gestapo during the Nazi power salute, giant lithographs of Hitler standing on top of a hill with a Nazi flag. One guy even went so far as to literally be a spitting double of Hitler, with the mustache, the haircut, the brown uniform. some of them really do go out of their way to represent Hitler, from, iron crosses, swastikas. They really, really go out of their way. And kind of like the thing, I know it's a very small detail to pick on, but what's very, very interesting about the way you see these guys gather together? Has anybody here watching this ever played the video game Manhunt? Where this game about this guy who has to basically murder members of gangs. And there is actually a gang in the game called Skinheads. And I gotta be honest, you could have literally have just included... I don't know technically why, because in Manhunt they don't actually use swastikas, even though the game is already beyond ultra-violent anyway. Why not just have the likeness of... In fact, actually, the more I think about it, maybe that's where they got the idea. Manhunt was such a great game anyway, and it's an 18-year-old game, and I can't believe it. It can vote when you think about it. But anyway, back to the moment at hand, is that Derek fights off just about everything and just tells his former group just to piss off, because this guy Cameron Alexander just basically entices innocent people just to fight for some cause, or to show allegiance to power, even though there is no allegiance, there's no morals, there's nothing going on with these people. They're just pissed off at other people just for existing, which is a phenomenally petty reason to do the things that they do. And more often than not, people will just start fighting back because it's the only thing they can do. Numerous times you'd see other groups just begin to start fighting back against all these skinheads. And basically what happens is that Derek, when he confronts Danny and tells him his backstory of what happened in prison, from him being raped by other skinheads to a man called Dr. Sweeney, who's this head of Venice Beach High School, that he tells them that, is your life really this much better if you for what you've done? Which I think is a very, very clever thing to ask, especially in front of all of these people, is that, is your life really this better when you're boiling over with this much hatred? Because it's useless, all of this. It doesn't solve anything. It's not going to bring his dad back. And you find out, again, very near the end of the movie, is that Derek and Danny's father had rather vicious colour prejudice himself, so it rubbed into Derek. Absolutely. And that was like one of the time when he got his hair shaved short. He started having Nazi tattoos, white power, barbed wire tattoo all over his arms as well. And they just go on a rampage right there. And even friggin' Edward Furlong, who, let's say, again, plays this 70-year-old kid, smokes literally on almost every scene in the movie, has his hair shaved short, dresses like somebody you'd see in a Nazi-themed high school, and has Nazi tattoos all over his body as well, much to Derek's absolute disgust, and he makes himself perfectly clear. And then, by the time the end of the movie, where Daniel finally has his paper finished on American History X, he's in this boys' room, and this black kid who was basically in the beginning of the movie when he beat up this defenseless guy, just pulls out a gun and shoots Danny twice, and the movie basically ends with Derek comforting Danny in his arms, as Danny's been dead for a good while, and Derek's just contemplating that this is all this is built up to, is his own brother being murdered because of the actions that Derek has caused and influenced in Danny's life. Violence breeds more violence, and life is far too short and precious to be pissed off all the time. And why can't we can just be friends? It's the only time they ever really mention the idea of friends at the very end of the movie. But this is what happens when friendships aren't made, and people just murdering people just for the sake of doing it. It's not going to solve anything. It's just, like I said, violence breeding more violence. And so when I put all of these ideas together, it's a brutal, horrifying depiction of just how out of control hatred can get for no reason. It's indirected, it's for absolutely no reason. And it's the brutality from the way from the way characters get murdered left, right, and center to, and I'm gonna just straight up say this right now. I cannot believe for any one instant, unless of course there are evidence to the contrary, that anybody would have been happy or comfortable with the fact that people had to wear and probably fake tattoos, but they had to have swastikas all over their body, dressing up as Hitler. Like, could you imagine? I would, if somebody came up to me and asked me, would I like to be in this movie, but the thing I've got to do is have tattoos of the swastika and dress up like Hitler, I would leave. There was absolutely, I cannot begin to describe to you how horrific I would have felt if somebody proposed that idea to me, because that is just sickening. I cannot even begin to fathom what I would think, not even for a movie. Not even for a movie where obviously I was not a skinhead, but I would be playing one, and I would be going so far out of someone would tell me to go so far out of my own way to show that I had the most vicious colour prejudice, because a lot of white people I should say the N-word, and well, mock other minority races as well. They just about piss everyone off. I couldn't do that. Not even if they paid me all the money in the world, I wouldn't do that. Which is why I think that's why it's so powerful, is that these people were willing to do it. And they say with a very strange and very scary sense of sincerity. Like, they believe every single word they are saying. And that's terrifying, but it just shows you how good these people were with that role. And yeah, just, it's not for the faint of heart, this movie. For its violence, its horrible, sense of racism that's literally, it flows like a river throughout this movie, for just about everything it's in. All of the swastika memorabilia, everything is just, I could not even begin to that's why I think this movie is so powerful, is that it makes me feel very uncomfortable with the reality that people like Derek and Danny and Seth, and they are out there in this world. They are there with the most vicious of prejudice. There are people like Cameron who recruit people like them. There are people who are the innocent in all this, people who go about minding their own business and then bang, just for the colour of their skin. That happens virtually every single day in America, whether it's talked about or not. What was it that Doughboy said in Boys in the Hood? Either they don't know, they don't show, or they don't care what's going on in the hood. And, well, what goes on in the hood? People get murdered for absolutely nothing. People start up some shit and they immediately pull out any gun they can find. The difference, I'd say, in American History X is that this band of neo-Nazis, they know who they're going after. They are methodically planning out every single attack. They are plotting out every single thing they are going to do, and they will get away with it because strength in numbers. All over Venice Beach. Violence as a way of life. Until, like I said, Derek starts turning away from it. And I've never really done this before when talking about movies and that, is what it says on the front cover. Magnificent, extraordinary, don't miss it. Explosive Norton gives a blistering, brilliant performance, and outstanding. A stunning, powerful assault on the senses. It's one you must see. Two mesmerizing performances. And I can't. There's nothing I could say to that. If you are really, really interested, ladies and gentlemen, if you are very, very interested in just learning about a movie that can make you feel so uncomfortable that it makes you realize that the reality of things, from every single sense of just viciousness and spitefulness and utter hatred there is in this world, and what can be done about it, to crawl back out of it, to change your life for the better, to do the right thing, I'd seriously check out American History X. It's making me feel so... I need the freaking... It makes me feel... It almost makes me want to feel sick, but it also makes me want to... It makes me just want to... It makes me want to do something important. It makes me want to do something profound, substantial. It doesn't make me want to sit here and just do nothing. It makes me want to take some action. That's what it makes one want to do. Because one of the things that they keep preaching about in American History X about why Derek is the way that he is and his backstories is that people are exploiting the system and they're getting rich and benefiting off of the back of honest, working American people. I don't think, honestly, that's 100% true. What I'm interested in, certainly from how I see it, is I shouldn't let it boil down. Nobody should let it boil down to what people who are so desperate and manipulative to do to get money. It's their life, is not my business. It never has been, and I never brought it up, but you know what? I'm just going to make myself clear right now. As do unto others. You guys know that, you know, I'm a Roman Catholic, right? And one of the most important things you're taught is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I wouldn't like if people were starting to, you know, bully me or threaten to kill me because of the colour of my skin. You know what? I don't do it to other people for that exact reason. You know, keep it simple, because some of the most simplest solutions are the most sound. I know that isn't going to, like, change a great deal of, you know, opinion and all that, but you know what? I think it's the best thing I could have come up with. There is another movie I'm trying to think of that's about, I don't know whether or not it's City of God or it's something else from American History X. I'll have to think about it, because just like Boys in the Hood, I absolutely want to check out more of this kind of stuff. I freaking just want to... What an absolute masterpiece that is. I think that's... I still prefer Boys in the Hood, but that is a very close second to Boys in the Hood. And with all that being said and done, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reaction and review to American History X. Please make sure to also leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie for yourselves. And I will hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.